In question 5, they give you a name and they want you to draw the molecule. So first, look for the prefix. That tells you how many carbons you have. Here it's prop, and the prefix prop tells you that you have 3 carbons. So I'm going to draw 1, 2, 3 carbons. Next, the infix, AN. That tells you about the bonding. We have only single bonds. So I'm going to draw, now carbon gets 4 bonds. I'm going to draw 4 single bonds around each of these carbons. Last but not least, we've got the suffix, that's an E. That tells us that this molecule is only made of hydrogen and carbon. It's a hydrocarbon. So at the other end of all those bonds, I'm going to write H for hydrogen. And that is propane. Now that's the Lewis dot structure. But if you could also draw a skeletal structure, draw a dot for the first carbon, and you're going to do a zigzag. So that's 1 carbon, 2 carbons, 3 carbons. And that would be the skeletal structure for propane. So both of these are drawings of propane. Hexane. The prefix here is hex, and that's telling you that you have 6 carbons. So you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The infix is AN, so that means you have all single bonds, so there are going to be 4 single bonds around each of these carbons. Finally, the suffix is an E. That's telling you that you have a hydrocarbon. So on the other end of each of these bonds is going to be a hydrogen. So that's the Lewis structure for this molecule, but you could also draw the skeletal formula by drawing a dot to represent the first carbon and then doing a zigzag. So that's 1 carbon, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Both of these are drawings of hexane. Heptane. First, the prefix, hept. That's telling you that you have 7 carbons. So you draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then the infix, AN, is telling you that you have all single bonds. So I'm going to draw 4 single bonds around each of these carbons. Finally, the suffix E is telling you that you have a hydrocarbon, which means the molecule is only made of hydrogen and carbon, and at the other end of each of those bonds is going to have to go a hydrogen. It's the only other element that we can use. So that's the Lewis structure. You could also draw a skeletal structure by drawing a dot, that's your first carbon, and then drawing a zigzag. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 carbons. So these are both drawings of heptane. All right, cyclopentane. Now the cyclo means that you're going to go in a ring. So however many carbons we have to make sure they go in a ring. Because the prefix is pent, we're going to have 5 carbons. So you could draw the carbons as the vertices or the points in a pentagon. The infix is AN, so we have all single bonds. So I'm going to draw 4 single bonds around each carbon. Last but not least, the suffix is E, and so that means that we have hydrocarbons. So at the other end of those bonds is going to have to be a hydrogen. It's the only other element that we can use. So that's the Lewis structure for cyclopentane. You could also draw the skeletal structure by just drawing that shape, having a point for each of the carbons. It's a pentagon. And so both of these are drawings of cyclopentane.